My New Year's resolution in 2024 was to not buy a single book for the entire year because I own so many books, and I'm not gonna read them all. I'm never gonna read them all. And so I was like, I won't buy a single book this year, and that lasted for about 2 weeks. I got over myself pretty quickly. This year, I'm not setting the same resolution, although it would be nice to not buy any more books. But I get most of my books from thrift stores, and for so cheap that it really doesn't matter. And it's fodder for my thriving channel, so I can just buy, film a video, donate, and everybody wins. The thrift stores win, I win, you win. And if I read a book, that's extra credit. This book haul is kind of big. I started just stacking books in a pile and thought when I get to a certain number of books, I'll just film a book haul. And I started that in about September or November or sometime late last year, and I just kept buying books and not filming the video. So now there are quite a few books. I think there's maybe one book that I bought new in this entire stack, so I'm doing pretty good. All in, not a lot of money. I also need to stop buying books because I was pulling these books out from my stack and I'm already disinterested in half of them. But let's get into them. The first book I got is Mom's The Razor's Edge, a book I already own, but I thought that this cover is nice. It was at a used bookstore and it was either 50 cents or $1.50. And I like the, is that robin's egg blue of these penguin editions. I like this style of painting. Brushstrokes. It appeals to me. I also have a lot of Mom's other books and they're in the exact same edition, and that becomes grating on my eyes. The next 3 books I think I got from the same used bookstore. 2 of them are from Nabokov. This is Laughter in the Dark, and I'm not particularly interested in this. I have read the first page of Lolita, the first 2 pages, and I think it's great. I haven't picked it up since, but I saw these also for 50 cents or $1.50. I think it was actually 50 cents because when I picked these up, I remember thinking there's no point. Why wouldn't I? And I like these editions. They're just vintage. Vintage, not like the adjective, but the noun, publisher, pronoun. Who knows? I think I said these were from the 90s at one point, and you can tell this specific copy is because it's yellowing. But I think they still make these. Maybe they started in the 90s. Vintage International is what they're called. I don't know. Buying these was a risk because I read Panine and I did not enjoy it. The other Nabokov book I bought is King, Queen, Knave. Same edition, same thing. I like them. They're a bit ugly with these pictures in the middle and the butterflies and stuff, but I like them. And I like how they look on the spine. King, Queen, Knave is about... Do you want me to read you the synopsis of either of these? These were $8.95 retail. That's kind of crazy. That's how you know they were from the 90s. I did read the synopsis of each of these books before I bought them, just to see if I was mildly interested, and I was. I'll read you. Laughter in the Dark is a great title. The back says, Albinus, a respectable middle-aged man and aspiring filmmaker, abandons his wife for a lover half his age, Margot, who wants to become a movie star herself. When Albinus introduces her to Rex, an American movie producer, disaster ensues. What emerges is an elegantly sardonic and an irresistibly ironic novel of desire. I don't think I'm gonna like that. I don't know why I bought that. I don't like when things are described as ironic or sardonic. That's kind of what Panine was supposed to be, and I did not enjoy it. But so is Lolita, and I think Lolita has been really funny in the first 2 pages. Who knows? This is a curious romance set in the film world of Berlin in the 1930s. I don't know, I thought it could be fun. The other one is about Dreyer, a wealthy and boisterous proprietor of a men's clothing emporium. Ruddy, self-satisfied, and thoroughly masculine, he is perfectly repugnant to his exquisite but cold middle-class wife, Martha. Attracted to his money but repelled by his oblivious passion, she longs for their nephew instead. The thin, awkward, myopic Franz. Newly arrived in Berlin, Berlin again. Franz soon repays his uncle's condescension in his aunt's bed. The last book I got from that thrift store is Bright Lights Big City. I've been looking for this copy everywhere, and I did not want to buy it on eBay. I love these editions, and I think this was $3, $3 or $4. I shelled out for this one. I think it's just about a guy in New York and debauchery. The next book I got is from a thrift store. It was $1 or $1.50. It's Graham Greene's May We Borrow Your Husband and Other Comedies of the Sexual Life. In addition to the titillating title, I picked it up because I think I read the first page and I was like, oh, okay, cool. I haven't read any Graham Greene. I've been meaning to read one of his books. I haven't. The End of the Affair. The next book I got was The Longest Race: Inside the Secret World of Abuse, Doping, and Deception on Nike's Elite Running Team. This was $1.50 from a thrift store. I thought that would be it is a cool concept. I thought it would be very interesting. And so I started reading it last night or the night before, and it was mind-numbingly boring and terrible. It is ghost written, of course, as is usually the case with celebrities. Kara or Kara, I don't know who she is. I just thought it would be an interesting book. But she's a famous runner. Olympics, podium at marathons, the Boston Marathon. And the New York one, I think, is what it said. But the book is so boring. It is a perfect example of a terrible memoir that is about... It's not a memoir. It's trying to turn a specific issue inside the secret world of abuse, doping, and deception on Nike's elite running team into a memoir just about Kara. Listen, I'm sorry, baby, if I'm mispronouncing your name. But into a memoir about her life. And I don't want to know about her grandparents and great-grandparents. It's terrible. It's exhausting. I got a headache from reading the preface or introduction and chapter 1. The woman who writes the book, it's not Kara, it's Mary Pylon. I couldn't stand her. She was really aggravating me. The book is written in the manner of every cliched memoir. Chapter 1 starts, and this gave me a splitting headache. I'm here because of an unlikely romance that bloomed next to a college soccer field. My mother, Patty Hayworth, was born in 1953. Her dad, Cal Haworth, aka Papa. And it's not a memoir. It's marketed as her experience in Nike's elite running team. It should not be opening with all this random stuff about her life and life before Nike. In the preface, the writer of it, the actual one, Mary, is talking about how she worked at New York Times and she went into her boss's office. Let me read you a page. Not a page. Let me read you the quote. It says, "When I asked for a raise at the New York Times, a masthead editor met me with rolled eyes and said, 'I'm tired of women coming in here for their lean-in moment.' I had my story ideas reassigned to men on the sports desk without my permission." Girl, I get it. It's tough out there, but the reason you might not have got those assignments is because your idea might have been great, but your writing, as evidenced by this book, is not. Did not enjoy it. Did not. Oh, and this book is signed. And someone donated it. It looks like without reading it. It says, "Stat, contrive your happy running." I'm getting rid of this book. I'm donating it immediately back. The next book is The Divine Comedy, but it's illustrated by Gustave Doré. I have an illustrated edition of The Divine Comedy, but it's with these glossy Barnes & Noble pages, and it's terrible. I love Gustave Doré's illustrations, and I wanted an edition that didn't have glossy pages. They're beautiful. I bought this on eBay for probably $10 or $11. I think. The next book I got is another one that I already own. It's The Boys in the Boat by Daniel James Brown. This is about rowers. It's a non-fiction book. 9 Americans and their epic quest for gold at the 1936 Berlin Olympics. A lot of people I know have read and love this, and I own it, and I want to read it. And I saw this copy at a thrift store, as I do, and it's signed-ish. It has a nameplate, I think is what those are called. Basically just a sticker that the author signed and they put in the book. I'm not particularly partial to signed books, but I figured if I really loved the book, I would regret leaving it at Goodwill for $2. The next book I got is another eBay score. It's an advanced reader. This is no, that's a lie. I was going to say the first advanced reader copy I've ever received, which is not true. I've bought other ones, but nobody has ever sent me one. But this is an ARC, and it was like $14 plus shipping. Score. I love The Little Friend. I love The Little Friend. It is really beaten up, but it's beautiful. The next book I got is one that was supposed to be, I think I talked about this in a previous book haul and said that it never ended up getting delivered after months of being in tracking. I bought it on eBay for about $6, something like that. And the day that I filmed that video, it arrived in the mail. That is Bad Lawyer by Anna Dorn. And a lot of people, when I said that in the video, were like, oh, don't worry, that's a bad place to start. And I was like, nice, good, then I won't. But now I have it. And this is the only Anna Dorn book I have. Maybe I'll check one out from the library before I read Bad Lawyer. But I enjoy a memoir. And this one's really short, and it seems like she's fun. The next find was at Goodwill for $1, and I was a little shocked. It's American Psycho, and it's, look, it's a first edition copy. I talked about this in my video ranking classics. I literally interrupted the video and I was like, hey, I think this was one of my higher ranking editions. I love these editions, and I talked about how they're known for publishing, I don't know what I talked about, but I know that I brought up American Psycho. They published fun lit fic titles in the 90s. The reason American Psycho's first US edition is paperback is because Simon & Schuster, whoever owned the rights, bought the book from him, decided not to publish it in the US. There was some sort of controversy, and the UK published it, and I'm pretty sure that this is the first US edition. It is not a first printing, but it is the first edition. Awesome find. It was crazy. I think I actually found this, I don't know, late last year, so relatively soon after filming that video. It was kismet. The next book I found is Martyr by Kaveh Akbar, and I remember at Goodwill. Hardcover, this book just came out. Someone must have bought it or gotten it as a gift, more likely, and just not been interested. I love the cover of this book, which is pretty much the only reason I bought it. I know that people have been loving it. I think I would hate it, but I love the cover, and I was so excited to find this for $2 until I remembered that I could have just emailed the publisher before it came out and asked for a copy. But I like the hardcover, and it's beautiful. I like the font, I like the cover, I like the color. I'm probably going to give this to my friend. The next book is The Secret History. It's hardcover. I found this on a dingy eBay auction. I already have a first edition copy of The Secret History, but I paid $12, $13 or something like that with shipping for this. The listing did not have a picture of what edition it was, what the page with all the information. It just said hardcover, and the pictures were terrible, and I thought it would be fun to buy it or bid low. I didn't bid very high, as I do on some auctions. I had to take a breather just now because I just ate, and my food is coming back up. Lord help me. Lord help me. Anyway, I thought it would be fun to see if it's a first edition on camera with my fans in real time. First editions are worth a decent amount. I think I paid $100 for mine, but the later printings are worth less. I'll probably just give this to one of my friends either way. Wait, you guys look first. Is it a first edition? Oh my god, it is. That's awesome. That's awesome. It says first edition here, and when I showed that on the book haul where I bought a first edition, someone was like, it's not. You have to make sure it's a first printing. Those are the ones that are valuable. Which is true, because the American Psycho, I think, says first edition, but there are different printings. For this book, maybe I'm talking out of my ass, maybe I don't know, but I think for this book, The Secret History, when it says first edition, it means first edition, first printing. Score. The next book I got is Ascending Peculiarity. I think that this is just a compilation of Edward Gorey interviews. One of you guys recommended this, and I'd been aware of this book. I don't know why I never looked into it or bought it, because I have another book with an Edward Gorey interview in it, and it's wonderful. I've read it multiple times, but every time I saw this on my periodic Edward Gorey eBay searches, my eyes would glaze over and I would never look at it. Oh, it says on the front, interviews selected by Karen Wilkins. I think it was $5 on eBay. The next two books I bought are both by Murakami, and I bought both of these used but online. I had been waiting to find both of them at a thrift store, but Ross and Nathan, whose channels I'll link below, have praised each of these books, both of these books, highly. Both of them love Murakami, and so I ordered them offline instead of just waiting for fate to bless me with them at a thrift store. I do hate, if you notice, they're two different editions. I hate the newer editions. They're glossy and I don't like the designs and they make me really upset. That's another reason I haven't just bought any of them new. The other, Sputnik Sweetheart, is the older edition, and the older editions cost usually more than retail on eBay because because people want them. I don't really want to shell out for Murakami books at the moment because I don't know if I like him. I do have a mild life hack for getting the older editions at reasonable prices, which I thought about gatekeeping, but I believe in karma. And so I'll tell you what it is. When you look up a book on Amazon, you have the option to buy a used edition of it. And I've done that very rarely in the past. Typically, the prices are much higher, like double that of eBay. But I mean, books are, grand scheme, pretty cheap, but they're higher than they are on eBay. And if I'm going to buy used books, I'll just buy them on eBay. But I have bought a few in the past, and most of them are older books that have been through several editions. The first time I bought the book expecting I would get the cover that was shown on the listing, and I didn't, and I was pretty upset. But when I was thinking about the Murakami one years later, recently, when I was buying what I talk about when I talk about running, I figured that there was a pretty good chance that if I bought the book used, they would send me an older edition. And they did for what I talked about when I talk about running, and then I did that again for Sputnik Sweetheart, and I got the older edition, which I love. It's beautiful, but it is a used library book. It's an old library book. It looks like there's plastic on the side, and I think that's what the library marking used to be. So if you care about the condition of a book severely, also there's a corner missing here and some missing off the spine, just the outer design. If you care about it, Amazon might not be the place for you because this book was listed as used like new. You can see it on the sticker that I'm showing you, and it is not used like new. There's Sharpie on it and pieces of the cover missing, although it is structurally great, which is what's most important. And I don't really care if the book is marked up like that anymore. I do care if there are annotations because those upset me. The next book is one I think I just pulled off my shelf to donate to Goodwill, not because I'm not interested in reading it, but because I have too many books and wanted to get rid of them. But I found this beautiful vintage copy. I think it's one of the first printings of The Spy Who Came In From the Cold by John le Carre. I've wanted to read this for quite some time. I love a thriller. I love a mystery book. I don't know why I pulled this off my shelf to get rid of, but when I saw on the back that this was blurbed by Daphne du Maurier, who I love, I bought it. I bought this at Goodwill for $2. And my Goodwills now have these huge stickers with the stickiest adhesive that I've really come across on any sticker. And the only way I can get them off books without destroying them is by holding them above a candle for 30 seconds to a minute so that they heat back up and you can slowly peel them off. I did rip some of this off the spine, but I just colored it in with black ink with a pen. But that's really frustrating. I wish Goodwill would not do that. But finding this old edition has reinvigorated my interest, and I might pull the newer edition out of my get rid of pile and just read that. On the same Goodwill trip, I found Daphne du Maurier's The Parasites. All of these are old books, and I think they were from the same person. The Goodwill had a ton that day of old book club editions. It's like book of the month. It says book club edition on the flap, but they had a ton of those, and it looked like someone had a subscription to that and then died, and somebody donated all their books, and I got a few. Among them is The Parasites. I went back and forth on this because although I do love Daphne du Maurier, she's written a number of books and I have a number of books I need to read, and I figured if I made my way through the books of hers that I own now, I would just buy this on eBay or at a used bookstore or whenever I found it next. I'm not too pressed about a book never finding me again. What sold me on getting the book now was the first sentence, and it reads, quote, "It was Charles who called us the parasites." The next book I got is another of these old vintage editions. This is The Sports Writer. This is from, I think, a series of 4 books, and this might be the second one, I want to say. It's a Pulitzer Prize winning book, fiction book from the 80s, maybe 90s. I don't think 70s. I think 90s. I don't know. 2000. It might be 2000. The retail on this is $6.95, which is crazy. The reason I hadn't picked this up before I've seen it at stores is because it's the second, I'm pretty sure, in the series, and I thought that not reading the first one would detract from my enjoyment of The Sports Writer. Or maybe it is the first one. I don't know. I don't think it is, but the series, I think, is 4 books, and multiple of them, I think, have won the Pulitzer Prize. I get these books confused with John Updike's Rabbit Run series, which is, I think, also 4 books, or that one's 4 books and this one's not. Listen, I don't know, but that has won the Pulitzer Prize multiple times, and maybe the first one in that series did. I don't know. Anyway, I read this synopsis of The Sports Writer, and I thought, oh, I could actually be interested in that. And also, it was a quarter, I want to say. This was from a thrift store whose books are practically free. The next book I bought is The Adventures of Pinocchio. This is the only book I bought brand new because I'm very excited to read it. The next book was also at the bookstore. It's not a bookstore, but a thrift store where books are very cheap, and it is Hemingway's The Old Man and the Sea, and it's a beautiful older edition. I left this book days before I found this copy. I left The Old Man and the Sea at the Goodwill bins and regretted it. I was like, maybe I would be interested in that. It's very short, so I wouldn't be investing much time into it, and Didion loves Hemingway, and so I thought it would be interesting, and then I found this beautiful old edition for, I think it was $1. Score. The next book is one I already own. It's The Joy Luck Club, but it's in the edition that I like, so I'm gonna get rid of the one I own and keep this one, and I'll probably reread it. That's my metric for buying another edition of a book that I like more. The next book I got is from the bins. It's The Communist Manifesto. This is The Object Lesson by Edward Gorey. I bought this on eBay for $10, $11, $12. I don't know why. This is one I don't own of his and is more expensive, but it was, I don't know, I just found a listing and I was like, oh, I guess I'll buy it now. More Edward Gorey. This is volume 1 and 2 of Soren Kierkegaard's Either Or. If you didn't know, Edward Gorey designed covers for Doubleday, I think in the 50s and 60s. No, yes. And the covers are beautiful. You might not think these are very exciting, but I love the typeface. His other covers are more fun and more illustrated, but I think these are beautiful. They're awesome. But he did design dozens of them, and I've come across 2 at the thrift store where books were $1, and I almost bought them, but I'm never gonna read the books, and if I do start collecting the Doubleday editions, all they're ever gonna be is dust collectors on a shelf. They would take up an entire shelf, and I would never read from them because they're so old that they're delicate. So I left them, exercised extreme self-restraint, but I do think the books are beautiful. They're gorgeous. I love Edward Gorey. These 2 were in a lot together on eBay, and they're in great condition. But I think they were $20 in free shipping, or $25 in free shipping, and they're typically more expensive. And I think that they would look, listen, I'm one for vanity. I think they would look beautiful on a shelf, and maybe I'll read a different copy of them. The next book I got is actually not one I got. Well, I got it sometime, but it was in my get rid of pile, and I thought maybe I would want to read that. It's Medea and Other Plays. The next book I got is The Power of Habit. I only bought this book not because I'm fiending for advice on how to form habits, but I thought it's an extremely popular book, one that I had not heard of, but I looked on Goodreads and it had more than 500,000 reviews. I thought it would be fun to see what makes it popular and why others appreciate it so much. In the same boat is Atomic Habits, a book I have heard of and one that is much, much more popular. I would never buy these books new, I don't think. And I saw them at a thrift store for $1.50 and I thought, now's the time. If ever. Maybe I'll do a video on Atomic Habits. That could be fun. But I think it would be a fun psychoanalysis of people. Like when someone says they love a book like Atomic Habits, I can be like, okay. I'm also always interested when a book becomes extremely popular, as is the case with Atomic Habits. I'll probably never read The Power of Habit, but I got it just in case. The next book I got was $1. It is Sports Training Principles, An Introduction to Sports Science, 6th edition. The next book I got is Fourth Wing. I bought this on Amazon. There was a coupon. I was thinking about doing a video with this. I bought it months ago. Sprayed edges, but I've not been feeling particularly motivated to make the video. And I probably will never. And if not never, then not soon. Who knows? I don't know. Another book from a thrift store for $1. It is Ayn Rand. It is from the Ayn Rand Library. Objectivism, the Philosophy of Ayn Rand. My Rand fever has cooled down a bit, but I still enjoy her a lot. And I thought it would be fun to read explicitly about the philosophies that are not really explicitly in The Fountainhead or Atlas Shrugged. Do you know what I'm saying? Like objectivism. I know that the word objectivism is not mentioned in her novels. The next book I got for $1.50 at a thrift store, it is Hillbilly Elegy by J.D. Vance. I bought this book, or read it. I did buy it too. When it first came out, and enjoyed it. All I really remember now is somebody saying that it was just a setup for his political career. Not a setup like anything nefarious per se, but just that it paved the way for his populism, good old American memoir boy, getting his name out there. I don't know, something like that. And I thought about that every time I came across J.D. Vance in the news. And now he's our VP. Tomorrow, I think, is the inauguration. It's Sunday today. Anyway, after he was announced as the VP candidate pick, the books all sold out everywhere and skyrocketed on eBay. People were paying like $40 for battered paperback editions, and so I thought it would be a shame to leave this beautiful first edition, not first printing, of Hillbilly Elegy behind. And also, it would be fun to reread now, wiser and older. I also got this book for $1.50 at a thrift store, and I had seen it at the Goodwill bins years ago and regretted not buying it because it is expensive. And then I saw it again a couple weeks before I found the copy that I eventually bought, and I left it, and I really was beating myself up afterward because I read another one of this man's books and I was really enjoying it, and I thought, damn, I should have bought it. And then I found it pretty much brand new in a beautiful hardcover for $1.50. It is 11/22/63 by Stephen King. This is about time travel, and I think JFK not being assassinated. Someone going back in time and not assassinating him. The last chunk of books I got are all vintage paperbacks. Nearly all of them are Agatha Christie books. I never remember which ones I own, apart from the ones that I've read. I own a lot of these vintage paperbacks, and I tried to make a notes document so that I would know, and I did eventually find it, and went through the books the thrift store had, which was probably about 20 of them, dozens of them. And I narrowed my selection down to probably the 10 that I did not own, and I took them up to the cash register, and they were like, it'll be $1 each. And it was on that day that I realized they had changed the price of paperback books from 50 cents to $1, which is not a big change, but it made me reconsider, and I thought, I don't even love some of these editions, and I'm not going to get through my unread Agatha Christie books anytime soon, so I ended up leaving 5, and I took 5. And the 5 that I bought, Cat Among the Pigeons, Pa's Turn of Fate, Sad Cypress, the Harlequin tea set, and The Mousetrap and Other Plays. I'm really excited for the plays and short stories. I've been really into a short story, and I wonder how an Agatha Christie short story would look, because the novels themselves are already pretty short. The books that I got that were not Agatha Christie's, but also vintage paperbacks, are 9 Stories by J.D. Salinger. I already have this book, but I loved this copy. I love the little colored squares with the name of each story on the front. I've read one of these stories and I really enjoyed it, so I thought it would be a shame to leave behind this beautiful edition. The last book I got is The Sayings of Confucius. I don't know why I bought this. That does wrap up, however, all of the books I bought in the past 3, 4, something like that months. I think my only resolution in terms of book buying this year is to not buy new books. New releases I don't really mean, because I'm typically not interested in them, unless an author I love releases one, which I will buy. Bret Easton Ellis probably could release one this year. Lily King, Ann Patchett, Donna Tartt. Who knows? But if it's an author I like, I would buy it, and I would be happy to support them. But what I really mean is books that I backlist, books that I want. I don't want to buy them on Amazon, or just new. I don't want to buy new books. There's so many used books out there. So that's really my only resolution, to not buy new books, to just buy used ones. What are your resolutions? Do not say that you're not buying books. Unless that is your resolution, that is your truth. That is, speak your truth. That's all for today's video. Those are all the books. Those are all the books. Sibilant S. Scene.